Welcome to Inside Texas Football, powered by InsideTexas.com, the one and only. I'm Landon Holyfield. You may know me as The Lando Show. Some of you may have seen me behind the scenes on various other socials. Alongside, once again, none other than Justin Wells, the man who needs no introduction. Justin, there is somebody that does need an introduction today, and we're here on behalf of the commitment in regards to Kobe Black. I want to let you I'm going to just throw the floor straight to you, man. Talk to us about this commitment.
This is big. This one's big. This is the 4-star out of Waco Conley, about 6'2", 200 pounds, really versatile. Corner in college. He played some safety this last year just because that's what they needed at Conley. He also played some running back and some wide receiver. He's the type of athlete you get on the field, and that's what he's good at. You know, he played multiple sports from football, basketball, running track. This is a guy Texas needed to get, Landon. They needed that corner on the other side. They've done real good with Santana Wilson, you know, Adrian Wilson's son, the former Arizona Cardinal All-Pro. His son is committed. He's going to be on one side. I think Kobe Black is a really good fit on the other. During the recruitment, they sold him on, look, you see what Ryan Watts is doing? Yes. That's who you're going to replace. You see the impact. You want to make an early impact? Right. That's the guy. Right. And so they were very straightforward from the start about where they wanted Kobe and how much attention they gave to him. He became a priority, and he has been a priority for almost 2 years now, man. And this kid had over 30 offers. He chose Texas over LSU, over Texas A&M, over Oregon, over Oklahoma State. Alabama was in the mix. Ohio State. He took an official visit to Ohio State. They were in the mix, but ultimately it was the big dogs. The relationship with Terry Joseph, Steve Sarkisian, and those guys. Not to mention former high school teammates Jelani McDonald and Trey Wisener that are on the 40 acres right now. They assisted in it, and you have to give a hat tip to Colin Simmons, the bell cow of the 2024 cycle for the Horns. Right. He's been in on this recruitment. He's been the 5 minutes after he went public this summer, he called Kobe to say, "You're next." And they've been having those conversations ever since. And so Kobe Black finally becomes a Horn. He'll be on campus before you blink. He's an early enrollee. He wants to get in early and make an impact. And this is a guy that Texas needed to get in this cycle.
That's big time. And I think it's important, too, to acknowledge, you know, depending on what site you're looking at, obviously On3's going to have the best listing, the most accurate one. But you talk about the physical traits, right? Early on, when he kind of first burst onto the scene, the 6', 190. I texted you behind the scenes. He looks and plays much bigger than that. And that's because as you have confirmed to me, you said you've seen him numerous times now across various different sports, right? But the body is already physically there to play corner at a high level at the D1, the Power 5, the SEC ranks of things. You said he's going about 6'2", 200 right now, which is a full-size, legitimate, you know, NFL corner body.
Yeah, that's the prototype, it seems like these days.
Exactly. And then specifically referencing the boundary corner position, kind of the prototype for what Ryan Watts has done so well for Texas as he transferred over from Ohio State. So a little bit of similarities there too, with interest from those two schools. I think it seems to be like a seamless transition for me. It just kind of he can really envision what this coaching staff sees and expects out of him.
Absolutely. And Kobe has kind of known what he's wanted for a while. He attended Texas, Alabama last year when the Horns hosted Alabama, and that was that morning kickoff. Remember, there was an early kickoff.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that was the best atmosphere he had ever seen in a college football stadium. He said it literally made him want to run down on the field and start playing. And I think that's when the seed was planted. And Texas had been in the recruitment before, but I think that's really when that relationship started to grow and to take off. And when you've got guys in their class that are recruiting him, and like you said, he's a big kid. This is a big kid. You know, what I loved about what he does in basketball, I asked him, what is it about basketball that you love? Because, you're a football guy by nature. And he said, well, I work on playing defense because that helps me flip my hips. That helps me with my footwork. That helps me with my technique when I'm in football. And when I went to – I've seen him play basketball 5 or 6 times. That's exactly what he does. He is a lot – you should see this guy slide at 6'2", 200 pounds. He plays defense, on-ball defense, pressure defense, and he uses that to make himself better. And I'm a big basketball guy. If you can take an athlete in basketball and put them and populate them on another field, another sport, a lot of times they're going to get along. Right. And so with Kobe, I think that seed was planted at that Alabama game last year. I think the relationships with Joseph and Sark and the current team and the proximity. You know, he had 2 older brothers that went and played college sports. His brother, oldest, went and played basketball. His middle brother is a starting cornerback at Oklahoma State, Corey Black. Those both left. Well, now mom and dad get to keep him closer to home. He's only about an hour and a half from Austin. And I think proximity is also a big deal for them. And so ultimately, there were so many reasons Kobe chose Texas. And it's just a really, like you said, a seamless fit.
I want to talk a little bit more about that too. You mentioned the family history, right? There's a long list of athletes in that family. And then we're going to get to that in just one second. But let's go ahead and pay the bills here real quick. We've got our sponsor. Thank you to Andre the Lawyer. This video is brought to you once again by Andre the Lawyer. They're a longtime Inside Texas user. Andre the Lawyer, they never take more than their clients. No win, no pay, and no upfront cost. The principal office is in Dallas, Texas, representing injured Longhorns throughout Texas. Every client gets a personalized text number so that they can contact Andre and his team anytime and have direct access to them all day and all night long. You can call 214-444-8808. And once again, that is 214-444-8808. Car wrecks, 18-wheeler accidents, slips and falls, on-the-job accidents, or wrongful death. Andre the Lawyer gets you taken care of. But Justin, back to, kind of what we talked about, man. You and I had a great discussion already about this. I want to hear a little bit more, and I think take the viewers inside, peel back the curtain a little bit, right?
Okay.
The story of their recruitment and kind of how we got to this point to where we're at today.
Yeah. Like most high 4-star, 5-star kids, every kid wants to be recruited until they're recruited. And then it becomes sometimes too much. It becomes overwhelming. I will say this about Kobe. Joe Cook and I talked about it earlier on our YouTube show. He has stayed the same the entire time. I've seen kids change, really humble as sophomores, start getting a lot of big offers, and all of a sudden the head's huge by the time they're a senior. That didn't happen with Kobe. Kobe stayed level the entire time. He never got anxious about it. I know some families, notably some moms, they get real nervous and they feel like, is he making the right decision? Is my son going to the right space? And it trickles down to the kid. This one was very easy. This one, these parents had handled that top before. I'll tell you, one of the coolest parts about this recruitment was that I think Kobe knew where he was going to go 6 months ago. I think Kobe actually decided.
He had it in his heart.
I think he knew. I think he knew. If you ask people around the program, if you ask people close to him, they'll say the exact same thing. They think he knew. But Kobe never, ever wanted to decommit. So that's why he kept he didn't ever push the date back a bunch like people are assuming. But each time I would go see him, he'd tell me, I'm getting closer. Yeah. I'm getting a little bit closer. I think I'm about to do it. He just wanted to make sure. There are a lot of players that don't want to decommit. They hate that absolute, they hate that idea of it. And so Kobe, that's the biggest thing with Kobe, I think, was just keeping that level head, staying grounded, having 2 older brothers that went through the process, having a father that played college football at Kansas State with Michael Bishop underneath Bill Schneider and had that knowledge and experience. People don't realize how valuable that is. It's very similar to Ryan Wingo, the St. Louis, Missouri wide receiver that's committed to Texas that enrolls in January. He had 2 older brothers that both played college sports, that both played at the next level, that stayed closer to home, whereas he's leaving the empty nest now. So it's a very similar thing. And Ryan handled it kind of the same way Kobe has. At the end of the day, I think Texas A&M had a little push. I think he had a good relationship with some of their staff, but ultimately he wasn't going to play for Jimbo Fisher. And I don't even know if Mike Elko's had any contact with him whatsoever. Right. And that's the funny thing. This is one of those recruitments where you could say, well, man, he was really close with Oregon, or he was really close with Oklahoma State or with LSU, but he really wasn't. He canceled every visit this fall. He was supposed to see Oregon. He didn't go. He was supposed to see LSU. He didn't go. He was supposed to see Texas A&M. He didn't go. And that's why I think this decision was made in the summertime. I talked to his mother a couple weeks ago.
Right here in his heart. Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to his mother a couple weeks ago, and I said, are you finally, you ready to get this over with? She said, I think we should have done this in the summer.
It's a stressful process, right?
Incredibly.
Yes.
Your phone melts, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's constant. It's not just coaches, it's friends, it's family, it's recruiting writers, it's the media. It's a little bit of everything. Your trainer, everyone gets involved.
Outside influence, and you got various people from all different situations in your life that you come into contact with that are pulling you in different directions. Yeah. And so it's like this internal tug of war that you're having to wager on yourself. And it can be tough at times. You're a 17, 18-year-old kid in high school. That's a lot of pressure to handle. Like, I'm making a decision that's ultimately going to not only impact myself for the future, but potentially my family, as my entire family as well. But there's generational wealth on the line in a lot of these circumstances here. These kids have a chance to go and do something special. And so there's no doubt. I mean, I can completely understand. And honestly, just my personal experience, I resonate well with that. Making those tough types of decisions.
You've gone through some of that. Yeah,
absolutely, man. So that's great insight there. And then another thing too, I just kind of wanted to apply some extra context to what you're talking about with having family members who have been walked through that fire before, and having an older brother or a father that's been there. It's like, there's countless examples of this across professional sports even today. But like, you see the little brother, why is it that he is always usually the best one? It's because his whole life he's playing catch up, trying to be like big bro, right?
And he's learning from the mistakes that big bro made.
Exactly. And I think that's just another classic example here for Kobe, but seems to be like you're talking about a mature kid who's kind of known where he wants to be, and now they get to check this box and make it official. I think it's a beautiful marriage for both sides there, family included. So this is a big one. Let me see here, make sure we're getting everything. Do you want to talk about the eval a little bit? Just like what you're seeing, the traits, just from watching his film and seeing him in person so many times. Like, talk about the athlete. Like, who is Texas getting? We've already kind of touched on the Ryan Watts, the correlation there a little bit, but just if you have any other notes that you think are important here.
The thing I think big with Kobe is that early playing time. He wants to get on the field and he wants to play early. You know what Texas did this year? They played a lot of freshmen.
They got guys on the field.
Yes, they played a lot of freshmen. And that, to me, is as big a sell as selling the program in yourself. If Sark can just say, you know what, point to the field. Mm-hmm. Look at Manny Muhammad. Look at Anthony Hill. Look at Derek Williams. Yep. That's 3 freshmen, true freshmen, that were among the top 6 in the Big 12. It starts by a freshman in 2023. Yep. So if you need any, coaches can sell all day. They can preach, talk, promise everything. Mm-hmm. But if you can point to the field and go, if you want to play early, do what they did. Anthony Hill got the spring ball early. Mm-hmm. Manny Muhammad got the spring ball early. CJ Baxter got the spring ball early. And you got to see how that translates. Right. Sark is not going to play the best senior. Sark is going to play the best player.
It's a true meritocracy with this coaching
Absolutely. I remember learning that word from Tony Romo. Yeah. I remember when he talked about it in one of his interviews, and that should be put on a poster in every locker room in the country. That's exactly how Sark operates. Remember, this is a guy that came from the NFL. He obviously had played at BYU, had all the success with USC when he was assistant coach. But he's also starting to run things kind of like an NFL roster. You churn the bottom of it using the portal, and you find guys that can play immediately, that can make an impact, like a Derek Williams. You're talking about a kid that grew up in Jurassic Park. Like, that dude he tracks and smacks. He'll start every game he's healthy for the rest of his Texas career. As simple as that. And so with Kobe, it's, can I get on the field early? And it's not talk. They have opportunities. And I think I really do. I mentioned Watts before, but the fact that when they brought him and his father in, I believe it was on an unofficial in late July, and they brought in the video, and they started going over stuff. Kobe, this is what you do well. Kobe, this is something you want to work on. It wasn't all nice and sweet. Sometimes it's, hey, you took too many steps on this, or you took the wrong angle on this. He was learning not just what he would do, he was learning how to get better. I think that unofficial visit with him and his father may have been the clincher in this recruitment, just because of how personal they got and how detailed oriented they got. And at the end of the day, I think we've learned Steve Sarkisian is a really good recruiter. He plays the long game. Yes. He doesn't pressure. He doesn't push. You might miss a few guys with that mentality, with that mindset, but then you're also going to gain a bunch. That's how you gain an Arch Manning. That's how you gain a Colin Simmons. You push the right buttons at the right time. And I think Sark and this staff was just dialed in on Kobe Black from day one.
I love it. And I think that's also a testament to, you and I both know, when you're recruiting guys, a lot of times, even as spectators, like, and I grew up like this way. I was evaluating the charts and looking, just tallying stars, right? I was star searching in terms of the recruiting process. And that's obviously the case when you're at a place like Texas. You're afforded that position to be able to be selective, right? But in the case with this coaching staff specifically, there's a very clear emphasis, I would say, on character, right? The guys that fit the culture. So they're selected not only in evaluating physical traits, but also what you got right here as well is very important to this staff. And that, once again, it just goes and speaks to, I think, the maturity that we're seeing right now from Kobe. Is just a kid that's ready, not only physically but mentally. Like he knows what's at stake here, and there's a chance for some early PT, and it seems like he's potentially earned that. Right.
And he's close to home. He's got familiarity with his family, with friends. Trey, let me tell you something. Trey Wisner, Jelani McDonald, and Kobe Black on the same basketball court
that's crazy.
Really good. Like, I don't think people understand. Jelani McDonald might be a better basketball player than he is football player. That kid is phenomenal. And so he has some familiarity there. He has some of his old boys that are there. And then he's built friendships with Colin Simmons, with Parker Livingstone, with Trey Owens, with some of these other guys in this class, because these recruits recruit each other. A lot of times they're not going to believe what the coach or the parent says. They're going to listen to the player. They're going to listen to the prospect.
Right.
And I think Kobe kind of betted that. And which, to kind of double down on what you said, there's a reason Sark has been so judicious with the portal. There's a lot of guys they could have taken, Landon. A lot of guys. But are they culture fits?
You got to check.
2 years ago, they took too many. Mm-hmm. They learned their lesson. They got their hand burned on the stove when it came to Jaleel Billingsley and Ajay Hall. Those were not good takes. And Sark changed the program. He goes, you know what? We can't just bring in guys that were former 5-stars anymore. They have to fit our culture. They have to. Otherwise, they're not going to build this program up. And Kobe Black is definitely that. I
love it. I'm curious to know too, not to throw a curveball at you, but does he have any of that Mamba mentality in him? Has he used that as a nickname potentially? I would love just
it's funny.
What that means.
I tease him. I've teased him about it a little bit.
Okay,
but I don't know if he's got Mamba mentality yet. Okay. Kobe Bryant, one of my favorite athletes of all time. Second best basketball player I've ever seen besides Michael Jordan. But Kobe's mindset.
Yes.
Was also Hall of Fame, also elite. As you know, I don't know how much Kobe takes from that. That actually makes me curious. I think I'm going to have to ask him that tomorrow. Because now I'm starting to think, because I know he was named after him. And so obviously you love that. But that's actually a good question for me to ask him tomorrow, because the Mamba mentality, hey, listen, I'm teaching my 7-year-old.
More than just a nickname, right? Way more than just a nickname.
The job's not done.
Yes.
Getting up earlier to work. Like I'm trying to enforce that with my son right now. So I'd be curious how Kobe views that. He's a big fan.
We'll have to do that. All right. Once again, y'all, let's get back to let's pay the bills here. This video brought to you once again by Andre the Lawyer, a longtime Inside Texas user. They never take more than their clients do. No win, no pay, no upfront costs. Principal office in Dallas, Texas, represented injured Longhorns throughout Texas. Every client gets a personalized text number so that they can contact the team and get direct access to their lawyers all day and all night long. I think that's very important. The reachability is crucial there. They're big-time friends of the Inside Texas team, and they're obviously big-time friends of this show as the sponsor of this channel here. The Andre the Lawyer, 214-444-8808. That's once again 214-444-8808. Car wrecks, 18-wheeler accidents, slips and falls on the job, and or wrongful death, they will get you taken care of. Justin, any final thoughts here from Kobe Black before we?
I thought this would happen a lot sooner. I didn't think he was going to drag it out this long. I really didn't. If the way he was talking in August, I thought this thing was wrapped up, and that's kind of why I thought he already had his decision. But listen. Kobe's going to be on campus in January. Okay. Almost half of this cycle is going to be enrolling early. Yep. It is a very popular trend in college football, and it is not changing because It's immeasurable how much of a heads up you get, a good start you get getting on campus 6 months before it really starts to get real in June. And so Kobe getting on campus early as an early enrollee, like I said, that's like half the class in the 2024 cycle. That's huge. That gives him a spring to work himself into the rotation, similar to how Terrence Brooks did 2 years ago and similar to how Malik Muhammad did last spring. And so I think that's the kind of the trend line we're looking at. And for Kobe, you know, he understands, you know, I was at his last playoff game a couple weeks ago when they lost to Jasper. And, you know, there's tears and there's hugging your family and your buddies you're not going to see anymore. But Kobe knows there's another chapter now. Kobe's ready to turn the page. His book, you know, the script has been written, but the book is just, we're still living out the book. And so he's turning the page to the next one. And I know he's eager. I know he's anxious. And college is going to come quick when he enrolls on January 15th.
Yep. And then I thought you made an interesting point, too. I wanted to ask you this question as well. On one of your previous shows and notes that I stumbled upon, you mentioned a lot of people, when they get to or they hear the news of a recruitment or a commitment being pushed back, right, they instantly just fear the worst off the top. And it's like, oh, my gosh, the sky's falling. What are we ever going to do? Like, he's getting cold feet on us, right? But I think you can provide some insight into it, at least a specific reason for why this one in particular was pushed back by a week, if you wanted to dive into that.
The only specific reason is because Kobe wanted it that way. Okay. Listen, these kids are going to do it on their time. Right. And if they give one of us a date and they decide to change it, guess what? They can do that. Fans view this differently than players do. Fans watch a Texas football game and they see Texas lose and they think, well, recruits aren't going to want to come. They were there. They saw a loss. No, recruits don't view it like fans view it. Right. Recruits view it from a different singular type of vision. And for Kobe, it was going to be on his time. That's why I think Texas was so big here. They didn't push. Some of these other schools were looking for a decision earlier. Jimbo Fisher was known for being big push once you got in the office at A&M. Hey, get it done, get it quick. Sark's not like that. And I think Sark being so patient with Kobe is probably the main reason they got him. You know, they didn't push him. They didn't pressure him. And this was going to go on Kobe's terms. You know, every cycle we have 3 or 4 kids that are just really mature. Last year it was JV Toviano out of Arlington Martin. He committed and signed with LSU. One of the best kids I've ever met in my life. I've known that kid for 3 years. And he is the same exact kid now than he was before he ever had an offer. He kept everything cool, and he did it on his timetable. And I respected him so much for that, because sometimes kids have way too much fun with this. They get on social media. They go crazy. Yes. Kobe never did it. Kobe's barely on social media. It's a good fit. And so I think ultimately that's kind of that's what you're getting. You're getting a kid he's mature, he's ready to turn that page in the next chapter of his life. He's going to be on campus in a few weeks, and Texas is going to get that much closer to a top 5, potentially top 3, whatever what happens with Xavier Folsom, whatever happens there. Texas is looking at top 3, top 5 for the 3rd consecutive year.
Some other big ones in the pipeline. Yeah, once again, a testament to Coach Steve Sarkisian and his staff coming over and really just reestablishing that culture, man. This has been a fun one, a fun topic, a fun player to cover and follow, and we're looking forward to seeing him get on campus early, you know, just really kind of start to assert himself into this mix and potentially get some reps ASAP, right? One last question for you. Is this a potential where, since he is an early enrollee, can he participate in bowl practices? Is that a thing?
That's a great question. You have to be enrolled super early to be able to do in bowl practices. And I'll give you an example. Jordan Johnson Rebel, he already graduated from IMG 2 weeks ago. He's already back home in Fort Worth. He's having an in-home visit with Steve Sarkisian and Blake Gideon on Thursday. They're going to tell him if he's going to be able to participate in bowl practices. Now, generally, that is allowed. You don't necessarily get a lot of reps, and I don't believe there's any expectation of actually playing. But you just getting into the vibe of it, the everyday minutia,
the wall, seeing how things work and operate.
Right, like you understand this being a college athlete. Yeah, that's you the time management thing, kind of getting into a routine. That's what you'll see. Jordan Johnson-Rebel wants to do that. Parker Livingstone, the wide receiver out of Lucas Lovejoy, who's going to be an earlier enrollee, he's trying to get in a little bit early so he can be on bowl practices. And to me, that's just kids getting in. They just want to get here as quick as possible. And Jordan Johnson-Rebel is one of the most mature kids I've ever met in my life. And so I don't think Kobe's in that position. Kobe's not, because they're literally going to start practices on Friday. Kobe's decision, was today. And so he's not going to be able to do that. But for some that can particularly get out of high school a couple of weeks, a little bit earlier, like at an IMG academy, they can absolutely be in on bowl practices.
Makes sense. Well, I think that just about covers it, man. This has been fun. Justin, thank you again for your time in this video. This has been brought to you by InsideTexas.com, powered by InsideTexas.com, another edition of Recruiting from Inside Texas. Justin, for now, Kobe Black, the newest Texas Longhorn. Thank you, guys.